I'm so happy to be here again. Oh, we're gonna do that again.
Yes, we're here again with another episode for Invest Iowa. Today we're analyzing deals with Logan. Thank you for being here.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. I've been wanting to get on a podcast for a while. Almost thought about starting my own, but hey, we ran into each other last week.
There you go.
It's meant to be.
It is all meant to be. The reason why we met is because we both found a local group that meets every week at Smoky Row, and they all talk about real estate, construction, like investors, investing in general, all of that. If you're trying to get started in all of this, I'll suggest you go to one of those places. If you want to go to this one specifically, then you can reach out to me. I'll give you all the details. Without further ado, let's get it right into the video. So today we're gonna try to analyze a deal, and see what's good, see what's wrong, what should first-time home buyers be aware of when we're trying to get a deal. What else?
So I think we're gonna go over a couple options here. As far as analyzing your first deal, it also depends on what your goals are. We're gonna be kind of looking at a small multifamily property, a couple duplexes. If you talk to a lot of investors out there, in any type of market, honestly, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I mean, this one works in any type of market. As far as like, you find a duplex, you live in one unit and you rent out the other. It's called the house hack. I mean, that's probably the best way to start building wealth, the simplest way. One of the nice things about that is the fact that you don't have to put a lot of money down, because usually a lot of people's barrier, their obstacle to getting started is, hey, I don't have a lot of money. I got to put 20% down, right? Well, that's not the case all the time. So like if you find a duplex, you could put 5% down, 3% down. I mean, I've even heard of some lenders doing 0%. That's just a conversation, though, that you got to have with a lender. But we're going to take a look at a couple here.
When you talk about 5%, I know the FHA is 3.5%, right?
Yeah, FHA is 3.5%. You're going to have private mortgage insurance on that one. So like you put less than 20% down. They kind of want to use that to back, because the banks want to take on the least amount of risk as possible. So you're going to have private mortgage insurance. Sometimes, I mean, it varies by bank. It's going to be a certain percentage of the amount you borrowed to. There are some banks and credit unions, they do something called an in-house loan as well. You're able to get a little bit more creative. And I actually talked to a lender this week that was working at a bank, and he's like, yeah, we do in-house stuff as well. So they don't sell these mortgages on the secondary market to like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. That's a whole other conversation. They're able to get a little more creative. And sometimes I've had this experience, though, like personally, I was talking to a lender and I was able to get pre-approved for 5% down, but like no private mortgage insurance. So, I mean, that saves you a lot in the fact that, in your cash flow, because that could be $75, $100. So like on a deal, when you're looking at a duplex, that's a pretty important amount of cash flow every month.
Okay, let's take it back for a second, because I think you made emphasis in a lot of things that people are not. Even I could get confused at a time. So what do you mean when you talk about house hacking?
Yeah, so house hacking is not only, you don't have to have a duplex. Say you buy a home. You just see a home on the market, 3 beds, 1 bath, and you have a couple buddies. Let's say in your case, you want to buy a house, you have a couple buddies. You don't want to rent's high, and you want to cut down on your expenses. So what you could do is you could buy this house with 5% down, let's say, 5% down, for example, and then you could have your 2 friends move in with you, and they can live in 1 bedroom, you live in 1 bedroom, and then that third person either lives in the other bedroom, and then you could charge rent for that, and then that'll offset your mortgage. So, or you could do a duplex, so 2 units, 3 units, or 4 units are all considered small multifamily, and that's on the residential side. So you'll get a lot more favorable terms, and you can live in one side of the duplex, and then on the other side, you have a tenant in there, and they're going to help pay down your mortgage and lower your expense. And if you want to get extreme into it, you could do like a duplex, live in one side, and have a friend or two, depending on how many beds you have. So let's say it's a 3-bed. You can have you and 2 friends in one side, and then a tenant on the other. And at that point, you're probably living for free.
That seems to be the best way to start when you have no capital, right?
Yeah, when you have no capital, that's probably one of the best ways and the most proven ways to get started.
Okay, you also talk about Freddie Mac and Fannie Mac. Could you like elaborate a little more on that? So I have a basic understanding, but I'm
Yeah.
sure if somebody just wanna get a quick knowledge of what
I
it is.
think
what
I
would
think if we're talking about just getting started, we don't really need to go into Freddie and Fannie Mac, because I'd say for just the first time buyers, that what you need to know is to have a good lender, an investor friendly lender, somebody who's familiar and works a lot with investment properties, because that'll be a huge difference. Just like if you're getting an agent, you're gonna want somebody who has experience, like
Okay, so follow-up question: how do you get a good lender? How do you get a
yeah. So getting a good lender and a good agent, I mean, the power of the internet. I mean, you can go to Google, you can go to these meetups, which by the way is a great way to meet good lenders and good agents. You can Google them online. You can set up a time to talk to them and just ask these questions like, hey, do you own property yourself? And if they do, that's a positive. Do you work a lot with investors? That's a positive. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to find a good lender. I mean, it's just almost like, I mean, you can almost think of it like you're interviewing lenders and whatnot, just qualifying them like, hey, do they work with investors? I mean, Google it. You can network. There's a ton of ways.
Okay, when you talked about in-house mortgages,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So that's another thing where I kind of went off on a tangent there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot, we're kind of talking about just buying your first one. So they wouldn't sell the mortgages, like they wouldn't sell it on a secondary market. So we don't have to get into that. Basically, some banks do. I mean, they'll usually tell you like that's when you can just ask if you're talking to a lender, hey, what kind of loan products do you have? Just ask that question. What kind of loan products do you have? What are terms like right now? What kind of rates are you seeing? And then eventually, though, like you don't want to waste their time, because not only is your time valuable, but theirs is valuable as well. Eventually, you're going to want to fill out an application to get pre-approved, because when you're going to submit offers, you're going to want a pre-approved letter. And that's just where you fill out an application online and you send it in, and then the lenders take a look at it, but the underwriters take a look at it as well. And those are the main ones. And then they're going to run all these calculations, and they're going to go through this and that. And then you'll hear back, and they're going to say, hey, either we're not going to be able to get you approved because of this and that, or they'll say, hey, it looks like we can approve you for $200,000 with 5% down, 10% down, whatever. And now you have that. And that really helps when you're going to buy, because buyers don't want to waste their time either. Realtors don't want to waste their time. And if you are able to submit an offer, let's say you find a duplex for $200,000, but you have a pre-approval letter, you're a proven buyer, like you are legit, and you're not looking to waste anybody's time.
And usually that comes with loan to value, right?
Yeah, so loan to value, one of the nice things about house hacking at the beginning, you get a high LTV because loan to value. If you put 5% down, it's 95% loan to value. Typically, if you're going to buy, let's say, a small multifamily, strictly an investment property, like you're not living in it, you just want to fully rent it out. Most lenders I've talked to, it's 20%. Some even do 25% down. I have spoken with a couple where it's 15%, but there's some hoops to jump through and whatnot. I mean, it's all just dependent on talking to the lender. But for first-time buyers in this situation, you're usually going to have a higher loan to value.
Okay, I think we jumped on this question, but we didn't quite answer it. So, what do you mean when you say in-house? That doesn't mean that the lender keeps that loan.
Yeah, so
because I think this is a very, very strategic thing that you have to keep in mind when you're getting a loan. Because I've heard multiple stories of like, oh, they sold my loan to a bank in New Mexico, and now I can't get a hold of them because they won't answer my questions, and now my rate's going up. Now I didn't realize that it was an arm payment.
So you've heard some horror stories about it then?
Horror stories.
Okay,
They're terrible.
Okay, yeah, no, I haven't. I actually haven't heard any horror stories like that. So that's actually interesting. It's interesting that you said that. For me, and from my experience and speaking with other investors, they're not really too worried about that. I think a big thing, though, that kind of relates to that communication, is having a relationship with a few lenders that are local. Like the ones that I just met with recently, they're here in Des Moines, so you can go see them in the office, or like if you want to meet with them for coffee, because then you establish, maybe you don't have a bunch of 30 relationships with lenders at like Wells Fargo, or that's just a random one, not hating on Wells Fargo or anything, just a bunch of big random lenders, but you don't have a deep connection with them. If you build a deep connection with a few lenders, they're going to be a lot more likely to push and push to get your mortgage done, and get that deal through, because you're going to have that established relationship.
So when you're not very knowledgeable in this entire world of getting money to buy a house, you will figure that bigger institutions will be better at providing value to the investments that you're trying to acquire, right? But sometimes it's the opposite. The credit unions, the small banks are the ones that actually have better packages, better deals.
Yeah, I mean, and often it varies. I mean, I've talked to people that have done both, but my route, and I know that a lot of investors locally they do take that local route just because of that connection. I mean, they have very favorable terms. You mentioned credit unions. They often have very favorable terms and product as well. I mean, and it's all just a matter of just exploring your routes, having those conversations and building the relationships, and prove that, I'm not here to waste your time, etc. And just building those relationships is very important.
That's more of the introduction of like talking to people, getting the right stuff. But once you really get the pre-approval letter, you're ready to talk to an agent. Well, we can go ahead and skip the conversation that, of course, you need a good lender in order to get a good deal, and you also need a good realtor in order to find the good deals, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not saying that you have to have a realtor. So like in this type of market, it is, and it depends on your area. Like what our market is way different than Austin, Texas, or Los Angeles, obviously. But it's been harder to find multifamily on market. So having an agent, obviously, I think personally is a good idea. It's a good option, but you can also find them off market. So what I've been doing for a while now is I'll either type or handwrite letters to owners. And that's just a matter of saying, hey, my name's just kind of go through the process. My name is Logan Aldinger. 21 years old, real estate. I'm looking to build on my journey. I'm recently moved to the area. I noticed that you were the owner at this property. It's a great property. I'd love to just talk and put my number. Most of the time, you're not going to get anything. But what I'm saying is you can find them off market too. And I know that a lot of people right now are looking off market. But, I mean, there's always stuff on market too. It just might be a little harder to find. And I think establishing a connection, especially if you're getting started with an agent, is a good idea. Talk to them about your goals and then about their goals and whatnot. Establish some baselines, that relationship. And then they're going to want to say, the agent will probably recommend that you get pre-approved, because they don't want to go to show you all these houses. Come to find out, we're getting ready to make an offer, and you don't even have a pre-approval, and you're not able to get it. So I guess you can kind of, going back more, kind of talk with an agent or realtor first, and then talk with a lender. Build up a strong team.
And get into that, once you get all the pre-approval and you get all the paperwork, I mean, if you're new to this, don't go looking for off-market deals unless you have a good friend of yours that does that for a living. But that's just going to be so difficult. Like writing letters, like that it takes time. You could do it, but it just... Yeah. Why not just go with somebody that can already do everything for you, at least for the first time, right? Yeah,
and I think agents are really, really valuable. I mean, some people disagree on that, but I think they're very valuable. And that letter thing, it does take a lot of time, but I've had some great, just built some great connections and learned a lot. Missed out on a couple deals, but they were there. Because a lot of it, especially, I'm going to guess, if you're a first-time buyer, there's probably a lot of people our age. I mean, it doesn't matter, but our age, listening to this, and if you're sending letters, especially if you're handwriting them, because a lot of these owners you would see are maybe in their 40s or 50s, for example, and they get a letter in the mail one day. Everything's online now, and then they're like, what is this letter? Who's sending this to me? And then they open it hi, my name's Logan Aldinger, 21-year-old investor. I want to learn from you. That sticks out to them, because it shows this guy wants to learn. He's ambitious. And I find that way, just reaching out, learning, they really more than likely will respond to you. Sometimes you don't, man. It's just kind of a process where you keep sending them out. You got to keep up hope, keep up confidence. You're not every single letter is going to respond to you. Sometimes it's like one every 100.
But I think older generations are more likely to reply to that type of approach, right?
Yeah.
A letter is going to be more significant than a text.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It also depends on the age group. I can show you here what I'm looking at. If we can see my screen, I'll go right here. So you go to property search, like, for example, if you're looking at Polk City, in the Des Moines metro area, a lot of it is Polk City. And I found an address. I could literally, so I go to the Polk County Assessor, and then I would go to property search, simple. And this is kind of going off, on a tangent here. You're going off market. Let's say I go on Google Maps, which I've done before.
Okay.
And I see property at 123 Joe Street or something in Ankeny.
Right.
I can command paste that address into here, enter it, and it'll show you like all the information, like who owns it. Like it's public information. Let's say I plugged it in and then Joe owns it. I can then copy and paste his name into, I don't have the tab up right now. So you can look up like search people free.
Oh, search people.
Can I open that up right now?
It's usually the it's a free website that allows you to truepeople.com, something like that. It allows you to find the number, right?
Yeah, like you can find their number, like where they live. And like that might sound like you're stalking people, but no, you can easily get on there and find it. Sometimes it's not on there, or you'll come across where it's an LLC. So you command paste that LLC into this right here. You just go up Iowa, our business entity search in Iowa, and like this is just a random one. It looks like I was working on that, and you can copy that in here. Click on this, and the nice thing about all this though is like a lot of people's barrier is money. It doesn't take any money to go on Google Earth, Google Maps, whatever. Find this, reach out to them. Like you could even just call them up. Like you don't even have to send the letters.
So all of these websites are free. All the
like this is public information right here. And then this one, I don't know what happened here. Invalid request. But okay, so anyways, you can just put in an LLC. I can go back one more. Yeah, so you would just put it in right there. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Let's see here. Yeah. So then usually right here, like this is the address. Like I would copy paste that right back into here. I don't know if this is Polk County. I think I remember this one. It might be Dallas. Let's see. So this one was Dallas County, I think. And then it would just pop up the owner. Like who owns it? And then that's when you put it into that search people free.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, it takes time.
It's quite a process, but
oh yeah, it takes time. But if you're really, really into it, you really want to find. Like if you're like, man, I can't find anything on the market, which you hear a lot of. Okay, well then, how bad do you want it though? Like this is what I do. I just do this all like obviously not all day. I got a job, but when I get home, I'm just here looking up people's names on this, like, and I'm just reaching out.
So you're a professional stalker.
I guess you could say that. Yeah.
I don't think it counts as stalking as long as you're doing it for a good purpose.
And
like,
and that's the
not
thing.
with malice.
Yeah, and that's one thing. It's like clearly, obviously not stalking, but when I'm doing this, like I'm not just looking. My mindset isn't just I want the best deal. I want to screw this guy over. It's like. No, it's like we want it to be a win-win situation because a lot of them, they do get a lot of cold calls all the time and they might get annoyed. But if you're just reaching out like, hey, this is my situation. This is what I'm looking to do. Get to learn about their story. Why are they in real estate? How has it gone for them? And then would you be interested in selling? Maybe you can help solve a problem. They're like, yeah, maybe I'm getting old and I just kind of want to sit back and cash these things out, and then you're the new guy that's like eager. I want to get in here and buy this. I mean, it's a win-win situation because you're helping solve a problem.
How, for the people that don't know a lot about real estate, how do you define cold calling?
Yeah, so cold calling, it's not only real estate. It's any sales industry. You're going to see a lot of that. So if you ever take a sales job, get ready to get on the phone because you'll be doing a lot of cold calling. Basically, so like when I put these people's numbers in here or these addresses and I find their number, they're not expecting a phone call at all. It's just cold. It's a cold call out of nowhere. Oh. Yeah, and like I haven't worked with them in the past. They probably don't even know who I am. So that's kind of like when you think of a cold call. I mean, just kind of think of it like that. Yeah.
Okay, so you analyze deals for a living. That's a pretty good skills if you're getting into real estate, right?
Yeah, so obviously I'm still improving on it. For a living, I mean, so at my job right now, I do some analyzing. There's a bunch of different calculators you can use, but this one here, I'll pull it up. A lot of people that are in the real estate industry right now, I mean, they've probably heard of Bigger Pockets. It's the biggest real estate podcast in the world.
Right.
And a lot of people listen to it. You can listen to it for free, or you can purchase a pro membership, which I've done it for the last couple of years because I find it very valuable. So if you look up here in the forums, like there's just forums and chats, like questions from people all over the country, all these educational tools. You can like put networking events on here, and like it says right here, real estate agents, mortgage lenders. So that's another way, but you do have to pay for this. And then they have a bookstore, all that stuff. But the main thing I use is right here. It's just a rental property calculator. I fell in love with it. You know, I just starting out. It's like I have no idea what I'm doing. This is a good place to start. If you do have couple $100, I think it's $200-300 maybe.
A month?
No, a year.
A year.
Yeah, that much a month. I don't know if I'd be doing it. You know, but
Yeah.
you can just purchase this. There's a lot of free ones out there. I'm assuming. It's just kind of find one that you like, and then what are you looking for in a deal, and then you could just go from there. But they have like fix and flips and all that. But we're just gonna be focused on a rental property calculator here.
Right. So if I have just some money aside, I want to get a rental going, something that is not my primary resident.
Yeah.
I just want to give that step towards investing. How do I go about that?
So how would you go about getting your first store? You said.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be necessarily. Yeah, I guess it will be your first store. Just somebody who already has a residency, a first property, and we're just looking to invest into real estate. How do you?
Oh, okay. So, one option they could do is they could that one that they live in right now, they can move out of it and then fully rent it out and then buy another one. But here, I'll show you what I've been doing right here. So if they want to just buy another investment property, so what you do is you can, whatever property you found, you copy and paste the address right here. I think this one's a duplex. I don't remember if it was on or off market. With Bigger Pockets, with this one, if you copy the address, a lot of the time it'll auto-populate this information right here, like the city, the state, the zip code. Sometimes you got to fill it in. So it's 4-bed, 2 baths. So a lot of duplexes are 2-bed, 1 bath in each unit. So it's the total 4-bed, 2 bath. It's got your square footage. It's got the year built. This description right here, I don't really ever do anything with it. Like, you know, if you go on the MLS, you'll see this unique property in this neighborhood, can't miss, that type of thing. Like, you could just put notes in there if you wanted to. Yeah.
Straight puffing.
Yeah.
Puffing is the exaggerating on the terms of a property. So, like, walking distance, and then you have to walk 2 blocks, and then let's say that you're handicapped. That's not walking distance for you, and that can be discriminatory. But besides the point.
Yeah, I mean, you can just put notes on there. This one looks like we got 24,500. That's probably not a realistic price on a duplex. This one either sold for 245,000, so you would just go and
Okay, so right here, what you're doing is putting the information. As if you were to buy it for that price.
Yeah. So let's say this one was listed. I think it was for around that maybe. So let's say you just put the list price. We're gonna keep it simple. So 245,000. And one thing I like about this calculator, if you're like, I don't really know what to put. So closing costs, this is going to be, you know, just like bank fees and all that, origination fees for like the getting the, yep. Or like paying your commissions to the agent and whatnot if you have one. Here, I mean, just like this, like I use this a lot when I was starting out, and they're like, when you're starting out, says right there, the 1 to 2% of the purchase price, they say is like typically good. And it depends on the market. Like some sellers are paying for closing costs for the buyer. Like now things are changing. So it's like a lot of buyers I've been hearing, they put in a purchasing agreement. They're like, well, I need the seller to pay $3,000 in closing costs.
Yeah, cover the closing costs.
So, I mean, we could just put it at, $24.50, like 1%. Let's just do that. Property value growth. How much do you expect it to grow every year? If it's in a good area in the metro, you could probably put 2 to 3. You know what? We'll just keep it 2.
How do you get those numbers? How much does it grow annually?
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of like, you can like look it up, like what's the average property, annual growth
And you
in
just
this
add the
areas.
average.
You can talk to agents as well, property management companies, like all this information, a lot of them you can talk to. You'll be able to figure that out though, like through the internet and whatnot. And it right here, also, it just says, if you don't know, this is just the average, like nationwide. I think that says the nationwide average. But here, from my time talking to people, it's probably 3% in a good area. We'll just put 2 on this.
Just to be safe.
Yeah, just
Lowballing
kind of.
it.
Yeah, just kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
that's another thing, you want to be conservative with your numbers, but I'm just kind of keeping it simple.
Right.
So if you're looking to pay just cash, you can just check mark that. If you're a cash buyer, if you have 245 grand at your disposal,
Hey, if you have that amount of money, like you're doing
Yeah.
something right.
Yeah. But a lot of real estate investors, they like to use leverage. Some people think it's risky, some think it's not. All depends on your risk tolerance and your goals. Let's just say, are we talking if we're going to buy it as an investment property? Let's just say right there, it's 20% down. Interest rates. Everybody knows, if you've been listening to the news online, if you're following real estate, pretty obvious, rates are going up. It's
Right.
making it harder to cash flow on some deals. There's always ways around it. I'm not going to go into creative financing or anything like that. We're going to keep it simple. So let's just put, I think the last one I talked with, he said what they've been seeing is like 1% above owner occupied rates is about right. So like if you were to live in it, you get a more favorable rate. But here, I'm just going to put 6.5.
Because it's an investment property. You're not going to live in it.
Yeah, this is just a strictly investment property. They see it maybe a little more risky. So 6.5. Your typical loan right here is 30 years. 30 is stretched out over 30 years. So that's what that is. That's what you usually put. And then right here, this is your gross monthly income. Let's say on this 2-bed, 1-bath, getting to know the market more. Let's just put a random number. 2,100. Let's say you're getting 1,050 aside. You're pretty nice units. And then here, your annual income growth, like what percent is your growth, or is your rents going to increase every year? In my time at a property management company, I think I've been hearing it's like 2 to 3, to 5%. I know the last couple of years have been crazy, so it's been like pretty high.
A little more.
Yeah, we all know the last 2 years have just been crazy. So I'm just going to keep it at 2, keep it simple. We talked about this earlier, a little bit about property taxes. You could go on the assessor's site again, estimate your taxes. You can go into like the mill rate. I'm not going to go into all that. 400 times 12, off the top of my head, what is that, 4,000 something?
I don't know, man. I just graduated from college.
Didn't say we were geniuses. So we got 425 a month. Let's just go. Property taxes are high around here.
Yeah.
So let's just go that. Insurance 125. I think that I've gotten quoted from like 1,200 to 1,500 on a similar duplex. So I think that's a pretty reasonable number. It differs. Like if somebody comes in at like 40 and they got properties already, they're going to get better rates probably. But it depends on the property though.
And you can always run different numbers, like different brackets. Let's say you put in $400 for property taxes and then $500 for property taxes, doing the entire process again, and then $600, right? And then you get like a different estimate of lowballing it versus like getting a really good deal.
Yeah, so like the property taxes isn't one that you're going to like change a lot. So like if you wanted to, you could go through and change it and say, like once you find out the estimate, let's say it's going to be 500.
And usually the owner should be able to provide that
Yeah, but the property taxes will go up. But I guess if kind of what you were saying though is these numbers here, you can change them. Like this one, like let's say you want to negotiate on price, which is becoming more common now. 245, you're like, well, it's been sitting on the market for 65, 70 days.
That's a lot of time in this market.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just reach out to my agent or reach out personally and say, kind of do some negotiation. Maybe you'll do an offer at 235, but you can change that if you want to. I'm just going to go through and keep it right now. And then right down here is your variable expenses. These ones change. These aren't your fixed expenses. So most people will think, what's my mortgage, my principal, my PITI insurance, taxes, just your base.
Yeah.
you're going to take your rent minus that, and people think that's cash flow.
Yeah.
That's not really the situation. If that was it, I'd probably buy every property because your cash flow would just be like, everybody's like, oh, that's a lot. But we all know in real estate, a lot of the times if you keep it long term, things are going to break. Natural disasters might happen. That's a drastic one. So you're going to account for repairs and vacancy like every year, every month.
Let's pause it for a second.
Okay.
What?
Your camera's out instead. You
What?
didn't connect it?
It was your job.
You told me you would go get the camera.
Oh, God. Are we still recording?
Yeah, but your camera's dead.
Which
So,
camera?
This one. I don't have anything on you.
My camera.
Yes, your
Oh,
camera.
okay. Well, that's fine.
Man, I am like parched.
Yeah.
It's a lot of talking, man. I didn't know you, like, you're good at talking.
Am I tangent? Am I going off on
No,
tangents?
You are.
Because I started saying like
at
Fanny.
the beginning, sure, but
No. I mean, you're going at your pace. My job is to make sure that we cover everything.
Yeah, and I was like, I was
That's
nervous
it,
at the
30
beginning,
minutes,
you know. I was a little nervous at the beginning, but then I started going like saying like terms. I'm like, oh yeah, we're talking about first time.
Yeah. No,
I need to chill out with that.
Yeah, it's all right, man. It's like we're chilling. All right, let's get back to it. Johan, please, cut this part. I'm sorry.
We're still recording right now.
Yeah, we're still recording right now. We're just gonna cut this part.
All right.
I'm sorry, Johan. We needed to make a cut. So, but we're good.
Yeah, you just
so,
let me know when we're live.
Okay, we're live. Let her know.
All right. So here, coming down to this section is our variable expenses. So like repairs and maintenance. Over time, things are going to break. You know, maybe you get a bad tenant, they trash something. Maybe a furnace goes out. That's a pretty common one. You know, over time, a furnace goes out. Right there, you're looking at a few $1,000, maybe $5,000.
Right.
$5,000, for example.
And all of this is annually, right?
So this right here, the ones that I'm looking at, are a percentage of your monthly income. So like say that did I put $2,100 a month?
Yeah,
so
you
like,
did.
So let's say 5%. Like once you start analyzing these deals a lot, and you'll be more comfortable saying, I think I should put 10% for vacancies. It also varies. So let's say you're buying a house built in 1910. I think they're well-built houses, but over time, the plumbing, you know, and the electrical, there's more.
We'll start piling up a bill.
Yeah. So like, there's more likely to be something like that goes wrong considered or compared to, let's say, a brand new construction build. You should probably have pretty low repairs, hopefully.
Yeah.
I think a pretty common one, you can put 5% over here. You know, 5 to 15%. We can just put 5 on this. I'm not sure what year this duplex was built. Maybe the 70s. Vacancy rates, you know, most of the time you're not going to have a property filled 100% of the year. Sometimes, you know, it'll take a month to get at least. So vacancy, I've seen a lot of 5 to 8%. Let's see what it says here. 3 to 10%. So on this one, I mean, I like to be safe, but you can, I mean, let's say you put 7%. It's kind of odd number. We can just put 7%. And then capital expenditures. If you ever hear somebody say CapEx, this is what it's just your major stuff. So like your roof, your furnace, you know, your water heater,
Electrical.
yeah, like major stuff. It's going to wear down. It's going to go out over time, you know, 15 years of roof.
Right.
20 years maybe, depending on the type. But you're going to want to account for that as well. So let's say CapEx, I've heard people say a little bit higher percentage, but just for the sake of this, because I don't think this is good cash flow at all, let's just go a 5%. And if you're wondering, this one right here, 5 to 15%. When you're buying a property, you can also ask, and you can see when you're walking the property, hey, how old is this furnace? Is like you can look on it, and you can ask if you're with an agent too, like, hey, how old is it? It'll be in the paperwork too. And if it's like a brand new furnace, brand new roof, brand new water heater, for example, you know, it's going to be a lot longer until you have, hopefully, you know, most likely to have to replace those things. But if everything's like 10, 15 years old, the roof's kind of starting to be iffy, you're going to want to put more aside for that or take that into account when you're going in to offer. So that's just another side note. And then management fees. This is a big one. I know there's people out there. Let me adjust that. It looks like I put -0. So for management fees,
Isn't it usually 10%?
yeah, okay, so it varies. It
That's
varies
if
a
somebody
lot.
else is gonna do it.
So a lot of investors, I know the first time, and it also depends drastically on your goal. If you're living in it like a duplex, you probably don't need it managed. You can have it managed if you want, but most people you're not going to need to because you're living. You're there.
Right.
You're at the unit. You know, anything happens, you're right there. You could take care of it. And I know some people self-manage, even when they get up to like 50 units, for example. I've met people with 100 units that do it, but typically a lot of people that want real estate for. So you said you want to get into real estate.
Right.
For you, are you wanting it to be a full-time investor? Or are you like wanting to just be like kind of passive, like have the monthly checks come in?
Right.
If somebody like calls and has a problem, are you wanting to take that call and go there and fix it type situation?
Well, let's pretend that I want to be very passive. That I just
okay.
want that money coming in. Ching, ching, ching.
Yeah, no, so that's what a lot of people opt for, especially when you start scaling. On the first one like this, you're probably not going to put any management fee, so I'm going to keep it blank. But property management, I mean, I work for a property management company. You can see it right here. So my opinion is, I mean, I feel like it's a great tool to use, because like you have a bunch of professionals there. They're going to save you time. Yeah.
It's like everything, right?
Right,
Do
it's
you
like-
need an agent?
Yeah.
You don't. You need a
Right,
property manager?
exactly,
You
yeah.
don't. Now, should you get one? Well, it depends, right?
Right. And I think you don't need to get too hung up on that stuff. I mean, if the numbers work and you can buy it, you know, you're qualified, numbers work, good area. I mean, you don't need to worry about that too much. But if you're looking long term, you know, like after you move out, I want to have this thing managed. Maybe you should put in 10% right there, because you know you move out and then you're gonna have it managed. Now there's 10% of your rent is gone. Maybe it's not getting cash flow. So it's just all on what you want, what your goals are. And then here, a lot of the times, a lot of the ones that I look at least, you know, tenants pay utilities. Sometimes on like conversion homes, so if you got an old single family home that's changed into like a triplex, like
Yeah.
3 units,
You got to split the bill.
yeah, you're gonna have to split the bill. But in this case, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, you didn't have to pay for anything. If it's a condo, sometimes it's in a homeowners association, like a little community, and there's like a HOA fee. And sometimes, for example, they may cover, you know, lawn care, snow removal, which is nice. But sometimes
awesome.
it digs into your cash flow. I know some people who specialize in that. They just buy strictly in that. Some people never touch it. So it's just, you know, you got to break down your goals, what you're looking for. Garbage, I think you can ask the seller. It's just one of those situations where you ask them, hey, what's, you know, or you can look it up online. It's typically not going to be that expensive. I don't know. On this one, I guess we could just put $25. And then if you want to put any other expenses. So maybe I'm overcomplicating this here, but I just want to make sure for the listeners that we're breaking down each one
Right.
and what it means and how you can find it. And then here is the magic button. You update it. And then it's a lot of numbers, you know, like at first you're like, oh my gosh, like what is this? I'll just
Okay.
kind of go over what I'm looking
After
at.
plugging and chugging, this is what you need to know.
Yeah, this is where you're gonna find out, and you're gonna, dude, so fast you'll just analyze all these deals. You get used to an area, you're gonna know like what is this rent for? You know, you're gonna know that like a 2-bed 1-bath rents for example, random number $900, and you're gonna be so good at analyzing deals. This isn't gonna be confusing at all.
This is negative $70 a month.
So most people probably wouldn't buy this. Negative 70 a month. I mean, that's obviously not a great deal, like a multifamily deal. So it's just going to break down like a little chart here. So in the green, $2,100 a month. Expenses, $2,170 in orange, and then your cash on cash return.
Okay, what is cash
Yeah.
on cash return?
Yeah, so it's your return based on what you invested in the deal. So like, let's say if it wasn't a negative deal, you got $50 a month, and then you take it times 12. What is that? 600. So you would just take your monthly cash flow times 12, and then that's your cash flow over the year. Divide it by, let's say, how much should we put down? So our total cash invested is $51,450. So you take that cash flow over the year, divide it by this number, and then that's your cash on cash return. As far as that, I mean, obviously you don't really want to be in the negatives, but if you got a bunch of reserves and this is a great location and you're like, I don't care, it's fine, buy it, go ahead. But
Well, you also have to add into consideration that the home equity,
yeah,
it's gonna eventually
that's a good point.
add up, right?
Yeah, so I mean, there's different calculators. Like when we use at my job, like I'm analyzing deals sometimes. It's called 4 ways to win. So this is one way to win in real estate. Everybody gets hung up on this number. Multifamily, you really want cash flow, but I know there's a lot of investors. Like if you buy, what's a random really nice neighborhood? You know, you got like a Class A single family somewhere in like Waukee. That's just a random market. Typically, you know, those ones aren't gonna, like a single family home isn't gonna cash flow as much. Also, depending on the environment, like with rates right now, they're hard to cash flow. But that's just one way to look at it. You got your passive appreciation. You literally just hold that property for a year. It's typically gonna go up, like we put in the calculator. I think it was 2%. Typically, over a year, it's gonna go up 2%. I don't know what 2% of this is in my head. Maybe a few $1,000s that you got right there alone. And then you have your debt pay down by your tenants. You know, your tenants are living there and they're paying down your debt for you, your mortgage. They're paying that down every single month. And then the fourth one is forced appreciation. So if you need to make some improvements, a lot of that is like flips though. Like what your friend was doing, he's going to go in and flip it. You can, like, typically, you know, once you flip it, you're going to look at what is this property going to be worth after, and there's a percentage into that. But there's 4 different ways though to win in real estate. And then you also have all these tax benefits like depreciation. Go into that another time, but a big one though is that monthly cash flow.
It is a lot to cover.
Yeah.
I think what
Yeah.
people should know now is that there are main components to when you're structuring a deal, and a calculator like this will help you try to make that easier, right?
Yeah.
I will suggest that if you don't know anything about this, I mean, if you watch this video, you should have somewhat of idea, but if you can put all these numbers and place all these numbers next to your real estate agent, I think it's definitely going to help you ace a more accurate value, and then based on that, make a better decision. I mean,
Yeah, and dude, before you know it, you'll just be like sitting at home analyzing deals, and like one comes on the market, or you see it's been sitting on there, and you go like, you'll know right away. Like, it's gonna rent for this. Oh, okay. Hey, man, it looks like a good deal. Like you can know within like 5 minutes. This is something that I should spend more time on. That's a really big thing about this is you put in the numbers within 5 minutes. For example, I don't know. That took us a little longer because we went more over in depth. But within 5 minutes, you're going to know if that property is worth taking up more of your time to invest it further. So we're going to break this down here a little bit. 5-year annualized return. I mean, that's another thing that you look at because, you know, you don't want to just look at year one. Because if, for example, you go out 10 years, you're cash flowing. You're cash flowing because your debt's paying down, you know, all that stuff. But 5 years is your average annual return over 5 years. 11.10%. Let's click on that. Just because it's factoring in all those different ways to win, all those returns, you're still getting 11% return. So, for example, the stock market obviously is another huge one. I don't know, what is that average? 8 to 10% historically, maybe 12 on the high.
maybe 7 with inflation. I'm more familiar with those numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like if you look at this isn't even cash flowing. If you're cash flowing like $100, I mean, the annualized return is just, it's a lot better. It's a lot better in the stock market. Obviously, there's pros and cons to every single investment. Like stocks, they're liquid. You can just say, I want to sell. If they're starting to go down a little bit, they go up, easily just sell. This is a little bit more of a process to sell a property.
Right.
And then this is just showing your mortgage payment. And then down here, basically kind of summing up all the stuff that we looked at earlier. You got your rental income of $2,100. You know, this is your expenses, including vacancy. You can adjust those numbers. Purchase price, the loan amount. So it's just your purchase price minus this number here, your total cash invested, or your money down, excuse me. And then that will be your loan amount. 30 years. I mean, I've heard some people go like, I mean, there's like such thing as, 15 years, but your first time, you're probably just going to do a 30-year. And then this is the big one. This one affects your cash flow drastically. Let's say you bump it up to 7.1, negative 125.
Big difference.
Let's go down here to 6%. I know a lot of people are kind of caught up on that. Well, hey, we'll break it here, $16 a month. I mean, and that's the thing with real estate. Typically, if you're looking to get rich like within like a couple months, this probably isn't it. You know, your first deal, you're probably most likely. I'm not saying it's not impossible. You're not going to go out and probably buy a 30 unit. Although I've known people that have done that, but 30 units with massive cash flow. You're not going to
Not your average
Yeah,
person.
you're not going to. You're typically not going to retire off of one property. That would be awesome. Everybody would do it. You know, it'd be too easy.
Right.
It's just, you know, compound effect. You know, put time in there. It's a great investment. It's still, I think, by far for your average typical person, it's probably the best investment, my opinion. So we're gonna kind of play with that here. Doesn't really matter for right now.
Yeah. I think what we need to do is just have a separate podcast in which we break down the deal, but we go more, go faster, see if we can analyze a couple of deals just to like have different scenarios, multifamily, single family, I don't know, a duplex, a triplex, all those different things. And then based on that, we'll make a couple more decisions. I think this is very helpful, and I think I hope that you guys found it helpful. This should clear some of the doubts with regards to analyzing a deal and how to get your first property on that contract. By no means this is financial advice.
Right. Correct.
We're not telling you to do anything. We're just trying to provide
I'm not
value.
a lender either. I know I spoke a lot about finances, so I'm not a lender.
This is your
Always talk to professionals. Always.
right. This is your disclaimer. But if you made it this far to the video, I know that you really care about this video, and I think you should subscribe to this channel. We're gonna always try to have more conversations with local people that are involved in real estate here in the Midwest, especially in Iowa. We live in Des Moines, and we will appreciate if you have some sort of questions for Logan or for me. Just leave them in the comment. Let us know what you think, and then if this is helpful, we'll be appreciated if you give us some sort of feedback. I'm sure we're gonna do this again just because it's so helpful. Like myself, I'm learning so much from this because I've tried to do it, but like when somebody comes here and breaks it down, particularly, it's so helpful. So
you know, and I might have went off on a tangent a couple of times, but yeah, I hope that helps. Just breaking it down, but before you know it, you'll get the hang of it. You know, biggest thing is just going out there, making the effort. You know, like I said, you don't have to pay for this. There's a bunch of calculators out there. Just find one and then kind of write down what your goals are and just start analyzing. Worst case scenario, they don't work. You just move on to the next one.
Yep. And I think Bigger Pockets gives you like a trial. You can analyze a couple deals before you can actually have to. So you could do that, and there's ways that you can go about that. But that will sum up this podcast. Thank you, Logan, for being here. I really appreciate your input or your knowledge. I know we're going to be here again. So,
oh, man, absolutely.
Yeah, I know we're going to be analyzing different deals, especially for Christmas.
Oh,
we're gonna
yeah.
call it Christmas deals.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I already said what I had to say. If you made it this far, thank you a lot. Subscribe and hit the like button. It's really going to help us.
Where can they find Logan?
Oh, yeah. Where can we find Logan?
Oh, yeah. It was funny that you asked that. So my Instagram is just my first and last name, Logan Aldinger, LoganAldinger. That's probably the best place to find me. I'm also on Facebook. You don't need to add me on there. I was thinking about starting an investment page, you know, real estate investment page for me on Instagram. I think that might be a good idea. So if I do that, I'll let you know.
And I think you should. I think you should.
Yeah.
You have plenty of knowledge that you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, now you know it. Those are his 2 cents, my 2 cents. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.